With The Bad Guys 2, there are now 51 Dreamworks animated films, so let's rank them all. Hello everybody, my name is Jesse and welcome to my channel and welcome to what is probably the most ambitious video that I have ever made. Today I'm giving you my ranking of all 51 Dreamworks animated films. Some of these I'm going to kind of rush through because I either don't have a lot to say or I meant to do this video way back in January when Dogman came out. So a lot of these I watched many months ago and have just kind of forgotten a lot about them. So some I'm going to have a lot more to say, others I'm going to kind of just rush through. So let's just get into it, starting with number 51, Spirit Untamed. Everything that I liked about the first Spirit movie is completely gone in this film. It is very clearly made for children, and I get that a lot of these are made for kids because they're animated movies, but I just couldn't connect with anything in this movie. I didn't find it funny or emotional. The characters were all very annoying to me, and it just was an extremely uninteresting story, in my opinion. Number 50, Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken. Again, a very uninteresting story. I didn't connect with any of the characters here. It's not funny or emotional or anything that makes me want to ever rewatch it. The twist that they tried to do with the villain is just not even really a twist. In fact, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they even revealed who the villain is in the trailers when this movie came out back in 2023. I could be wrong, someone correct me. But I just think everything that they were trying to do with this movie just didn't hook me. 49, Home. This has always been one of my least favorite Dreamworks films. The only reason it's higher is because I think there are a few moments in here that do genuinely make me laugh. They're very few and far between, but for the most part, the characters and story are uninteresting. You're probably going to hear me say that a lot with a lot of these lower films. As a character, I've always just found kind of annoying, and I get why they wrote his character and the dialogue the way that they did, but I just have not liked it ever. These next three I'm kind of just going to talk about all together. So 48, Trolls World Tour, 47, Trolls Band Together, and 46, Trolls. All of these movies have pretty much just the same exact positives and flaws for me. The music carries all three of them, especially in that first Trolls movie. That's the reason why the first one is my favorite of the three. I remember liking all of the music like when I was younger, but I've just never really loved any of these movies. And they have the same kind of childish humor that the last couple movies I've talked about have. And so I just never have any urge to go back and rewatch them. 45, The Boss Baby Family Business. I understand why they tried to make a sequel to this movie, but it just didn't work. I fairly enjoyed the first one, and this movie still has some moments that are enjoyable. There's a few jokes here and there that were kind of fun, but for the most part, a lot of what I liked about the first one is just didn't work the same way in this movie. I think it gets a little too silly and too weird. 44, Captain Underpants, the first epic movie. There are a few fun moments in this movie that make me laugh. The humor is decent enough for what the film is. I remember reading a Captain Underpants book when I was very young, so I kind of knew what I was getting into when watching this movie, but it's just not one that I'm ever going to willingly want to go back to and revisit. 43, The Croods, A New Age. I really liked the first one, but for me, the sequel just did not work quite as well. There's still a lot of great humor with the family dynamic, and I like pretty much all of the voice acting, but the plot itself, it's just kind of a pretty forgettable Dreamworks movie when looking at all the rest of them. 42, Shrek the Third. This movie is not necessarily bad. I like all of the Shrek movies to some degree, but this is definitely the most forgettable of the four of them. It's the one that feels like it adds the least to the franchise. Like, it just for the most part, it really feels more like a filler movie than anything. There's still like there's some great humor. There are several moments that I do enjoy, which is the reason why it's a little bit higher on my list. But it doesn't really feel like it adds much to the Shark franchise as a whole. 41, Shark Tale. Again, not a bad movie. The voice acting is good. I like the idea of trying to do like a mob movie, but with fish. I thought it's an interesting concept. But again, it's a very forgettable movie when looking at all of DreamWorks' filmography. There are just so many more that I would rather go back to. Number 40, Dogman. There's a lot to enjoy in this movie. I like the animation style a lot. I think it's very interesting to have a protagonist who is a dog. Thus, he doesn't speak. He can only bark and like make all the sounds that a dog can make. There's some really sweet moments with his character. Pete Davidson is decent as the villain, and while it is more on the children's side of DreamWorks filmography, I still found myself having a decent time with it. Number 39, Kung Fu Panda 4. This was a pretty disappointing one for me. Because of Jack Black and his fantastic voice acting and the animation, I love the Kung Fu Panda franchise. I still had fun with this movie. I didn't hate it by any means, but there were several things that really let me down about it, especially I think it was just kind of misleading with the fact that they made it seem like they were bringing back all of the original villains, and it was going to be a really cool final battle with this villain that can impersonate these other characters from Poe's past. But then at the end, it's just so rushed and you don't really get any time with them. The villain as a whole is very weak. It's the least mature of all the Kung Fu Panda movies. And so, like, I'm not going to say that I wouldn't rewatch it, but of the 4 films in the franchise, it's the one that is the most forgettable and the one that I am least likely to rewatch in the future. 38, The Boss Baby. This is the first kind of big step up in quality. I enjoy this movie. I have seen it several times. I like Alec Baldwin in the lead role. I think he's actually pretty funny. There's a lot of great humor in this movie, especially with the other baby characters. And like overall, I mean, that's really all I have to say about it. It's not anything like super deep. There's nothing really insane about this movie. It's just kind of a fun time every time I watch it. 37, Joseph King of Dreams. There's not a lot for me to say with this one. I don't remember all that much. I think the animation is decent. I remember thinking the songs were pretty decent. Overall, it's not a bad movie. It's just one of the more forgettable ones. 36, I have Chicken Run. I'm a pretty big fan of this one. I like the voice acting. I'm a big fan of claymation, so I really love that approach when it comes to the animation in this movie. I think there's some good humor. I don't go back to it all that often, but I do think it is a really fun time. 35, I have the one that started it all, Ants. This movie reminds me a lot of Pixar's A Bug's Life, which is, I can't remember which one came out first, but it reminds me very much of that movie. Again, the voice acting here is great. The animation looks pretty decent. This was overall a pretty decent first movie for DreamWorks in general. 34, I have B-Movie, and of course the biggest thing that comes to my mind when I think of this movie is all of the memes. This movie has been memed the crap out of pretty much since it came out. Like constantly there's, you see memes and clips from this movie all the time, and for good reason. There is a decent amount of good humor in this movie. For me personally, I'm always a little bit uncomfortable watching this movie, not just because of the weird subplot with Barry and the woman, but I personally have a huge fear of bees, wasps, hornets, any insects like that. So overall, that I'm just kind of weirded out by this movie because of that. 33, I have The Road to El Dorado. Again, not much to say on this one. I really like the relationship and the dynamic between the two lead characters. I think there's some fun humor between them. And with this being one of DreamWorks' earliest movies, I think it was fairly decent. 32, Shrek Forever After. I think this movie gets kind of overlooked. I think it's fairly overhated. I think Rumpelstiltskin is a very decent villain. And again, it is one of the weaker ones in this franchise when compared to the first two movies. But I do think it is a good amount of fun. And it's an interesting kind of what if scenario where Shrek and Fiona kind of never met and never fell in love. And it's just kind of fun to see that scenario played out. 31, I have Orion in the Dark and the Dark. This was a straight-to-Netflix DreamWorks movie that came out, I believe, last year. And this was a huge surprise for me. I just watched it for the first time recently, and it was very surprising. I had no idea what to expect going in. Being a straight-to-Netflix one, that made me a little bit nervous. I didn't know if that was... I kind of just went in almost expecting it to be a little bit lower quality. And I'm very glad that I was wrong. This was a very decent time. I was surprised to see that this was written by the same guy that wrote Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Charlie Kaufman. And I think it is pretty well written. I like the way that they told the story. It's kind of told almost... It almost has several different layers to it. Like, it actually is kind of mind-blowing at the end because they almost set it up where it's multiple different generations telling bedtime stories that become this movie. That's a really horrible way of phrasing it, but if you've seen the movie, you get what I'm trying to say. Paul Walter Hauser is great as Dark. There's some fun humor. The animation looks really good. Overall, this was a big surprise for me. 30, Monsters vs. Aliens. This is one that I remember watching all the time as a kid. I always loved it, and I still have a great time watching it now. There's some great humor. Bob, of course, is a hilarious character. Again, I think most of my love comes from just kind of the nostalgia factor of watching it all the time as a kid. 29, The Croods. I love the dynamic of this whole family. They're all hilarious. Everyone has a moment to shine. Nicolas Cage, especially as Grug, is hilarious throughout this whole movie. Ryan Reynolds as Guy is great. This is just overall a really fun movie that's just kind of in the middle. It's not one of the best, but it's also not one of the worst. 28, I have Madagascar 3, Europe's Most Wanted. I do think this is definitely the silliest of this trilogy, and it can definitely get pretty goofy at times, especially with the French villain in this movie. And at the same time, it almost gets too silly for its own good. But I also can't help but have a good time every time I watch this movie. I like all the new circus characters that they brought in. Bryan Cranston is great. Overall, I think this is just a fun movie. 27, Turbo. I've always been very positive on this movie. I've always thought it was a blast. All of the voice acting is great. There are several fantastic racing sequences. There's not a lot to say. It's just overall just a good time. 26, Abominable. Again, just a fun movie. The dynamic between all of the lead characters are great. All of Yi, I believe, is the name of the lead girl. All of her music sequences are great. I like all the scenes where she's playing her violin. I love all of that. The animation looks really solid. Yeah, the villain and everything with him is fairly cliche, but again, it's a kid's movie. I can't really fault it for that. I just thought this was a fairly decent movie. 25, Flushed Away. Again, just a fun movie. I love Hugh Jackman and Kate Winslet in the lead roles. The animation looks great. 24, Over the Hedge, a very interesting premise of animals trying to get over a fence to get food from a real person's house. I think it's an interesting premise. I think it's done hilariously. There are a lot of really great jokes. 23, Spirit, Stallion of the Chimeran, really great animation, a really great story. 22, Wallace and Gromit, The Curse of the Were-Rabbit. Like I said with Chicken Run, I really love claymation, so like that style just really worked for me in this movie. The dynamic between Wallace and Gromit themselves is fantastic. There's a ton of good jokes in here. Overall, the biggest thing for me is I just love the look of the animation. 21, Sinbad, Legend of the Seven Seas. Brad Pitt is great in this role. Number 20, Kung Fu Panda 3. Not as great as the first two movies, but still a really solid entry in this franchise. Jack Black continues to be fantastic as Po. Him finally getting to meet his actual father and the back and forth kind of bantering between his real father and his adopted father. I think all of that is great. Kai, played by J.K. Simmons, is a really decent villain. I love the score. All of the animation styles look really, really cool. Overall, there's a lot to love in this movie. 19, Madagascar, Escape to Africa. Alex getting to meet his real parents is great. The penguins are absolutely hilarious, easily the best part of this movie. 18, Mr. Peabody and Sherman. This is one that I think gets really overlooked by a lot of people. It gets kind of forgotten. I think it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy this movie. The dynamic between Mr. Peabody and Sherman is great. I'm a huge history fan, so just seeing them visit all these places and meeting these characters from history, I think is really well done. Number 17, the newest DreamWorks movie, The Bad Guys 2. I was a massive fan of the first Bad Guys movie, and so I was really excited for this one. I was curious to see what they were going to do, introducing a whole new team of characters, and I had a lot of fun with it. I definitely liked it a lot less than the first movie, but I really enjoyed it. The animation still looks absolutely fantastic. All of the voice acting is incredible. Sam Rockwell is way too cool, way too good as Mr. Wolf. I absolutely love him, and he might legitimately be one of my favorite characters in all of DreamWorks. I like every time he's on screen, I just want to see more of him. Super charismatic. And overall, I think the plot of this movie is just a little bit weaker. And I think the overall idea of introducing a whole different team of characters, was interesting. It definitely raised the stakes. It had personal stakes for Mr. Wolf in particular. But I think for me personally, I honestly think this movie may have worked better if they did, if they had just these characters and having them need to do a different heist. I don't know. The new characters just didn't fully work for me. I wasn't really invested in them. So overall, this movie was not necessarily disappointing. I just did like it a fair amount less than the first one. 16, Madagascar, another one that I think is absolutely hilarious. I have such a fun time watching it every time I go back to it. Number 15, Puss in Boots. Puss in Boots is probably my favorite character from Shrek 2. So the fact that they gave him his own spin-off movie is great. The animation looks really solid. Antonio Banderas is incredible in this role. And all of the music is very, very cool. I love that aspect of it. Rise of the Guardians, another one that I remember watching all the time when I was younger, since the time this movie came out till Even now, I still watch it quite a bit. I really enjoy this movie. I remember there was a period of time, like up to a couple of years ago, that I would watch this movie at least a couple times a year. All the characters are great. I love the voice acting. Jude Law as Pitch is fantastic. The animation all looks really, really cool. And for a while, to me, this was just one of the most rewatchable DreamWorks movies. 13, Megamind. Will Ferrell and Brad Pitt are both absolutely hilarious in this movie. I love the idea of a supervillain defeating his nemesis finally, and now he doesn't know what to do with his life, and thus wanting to create a new nemesis. I think that's a really cool premise. I think they execute it perfectly. There's some hilarious moments in here. Number 12, Penguins of Madagascar. The penguins are easily my favorite part of all of the Madagascar movies, and so it's only fitting that a movie dedicated to them would be right up my alley. Ever since this movie came out, it has been one of my favorites from DreamWorks. From beginning to end, it is absolutely hilarious. There's not a single scene where I don't bust up laughing at least one time. The North Wind is like a great new set of characters to interact with the penguins in this movie. John Malkovich as Dave is a hilarious villain, and there's a lot of great running jokes surrounding him, especially. I love this movie. It's again, I think it's absolutely hilarious, and I have such a good time with it every time I watch it. Number 11, The Bad Guys, easily one of the best DreamWorks movies in recent years. I absolutely love heist movies, so going into this movie, I knew that I would probably really dig it, and I absolutely did. The animation looks fantastic, and you can tell that this movie took a little bit of inspiration from movies like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, kind of experimenting a little bit with different styles of animation, doing different things with it. I absolutely love that. It all looks really cool. Just like I said with The Bad Guys 2, all of the voice acting, all of the casting, I think is really well done. Overall, this movie just creates a really cool vibe that I absolutely dug. Kicking off the top 10, I have How to Train Your Dragon 2. Obviously not as good as the other two in this franchise, but a very, very solid sequel. The relationship between Hiccup and Toothless continues to be fantastic here. Adding Hiccup's mother into the mix, I think, is really great. I love how they bring her in, and she's a fantastic supporting character. Jimon Hansu is great as the villain. I can't remember his name, but I think he's a solid villain for the movie. And there's a lot of great emotional moments in here, most notably the death of Hiccup's father. I think that's all handled really beautifully. Number 9, How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World. I thought this was a fantastic send-off to this trilogy and to these characters. I think it all ended really, really well. Hiccup and Toothless, yes, they have to kind of say goodbye at the end of this movie, but they get their own satisfying ending, and they go with the one that's meant for them. The animation all looks really good. As always, the score is fantastic, and this is just like it's the best ending that I think they could have made for this trilogy. Number 8, The Prince of Egypt. I absolutely love this one. All of the songs are great. The animation is absolutely fantastic. Every frame of this movie looks like something you would want to hang on a wall. It really all looks really, really awesome. I just absolutely love it for that. It's not one that I go back to all that often. I've only seen it a couple of times, but I do really, really enjoy it. And I think to this day, it's still one of the best that DreamWorks has ever made. Number 7, Shrek 2. I really love this movie. The first Shrek has always been one of my favorite DreamWorks movies, and the sequel, it has everything that you loved from the first movie. The same kind of humor, great new characters. Puss in Boots is a fantastic addition. The villains all work well, And just like the first one, there's iconic musical moments. Like that scene towards the end with "I Need a Hero" is possibly one of the most iconic scenes in all of DreamWorks. It all works brilliantly, and I absolutely love everything about this movie. Number 6, The Wild Robot. Again, one of the newest DreamWorks movies, and I really loved this movie. It absolutely blew me away, and one of the reasons why I loved this movie so much is it's finally a new DreamWorks movie that was not afraid to be mature, not afraid to be emotional. And after newer movies like Spirit Untamed and Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken, it was just such a breath of fresh air and such a relief that DreamWorks was finally going back to kind of why I loved their movies in the first place. And I feel like this is a movie that I will only like more the older that I get. Like I already loved it now. I can imagine watching this in 20 years when I have kids of my own and it hitting even harder than it did this time. So I really loved this movie. Number 5, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. And it took my favorite character from Shrek, and this was just a perfect sequel to the first movie. The animation is absolutely stunning, the way they played with different forms of animation. Again, kind of taking a little bit of inspiration from movies like Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse that did something different. This movie does a lot of different things with its animation. It looks really, really incredible. Death is a phenomenal villain. I love him. Every time he was on screen, he's intimidating. It adds stakes to Puss as a character, and just the overall idea of Puss being on his final wish, and he feels like he needs his 9 lives again, otherwise he won't be able to be Puss in Boots. He feels like the thing that made him him is that he couldn't, if he died, he would just come right back. He had 9 lives. He could be risky and a daredevil and a hero, and he feels like with only 1 life left, he can't do that. And so those personal stakes from him, I thought were really well done. All the supporting characters are great. The movie is hilarious. There's some fantastic humor. Number 4, Shrek, one of the most iconic DreamWorks movies, and for very good reason. And this was the movie that I kind of pretty much put DreamWorks on the map. It was the first Best Animated Feature Oscar winner ever. And I love everything about this movie. Ever since I was a kid, I've watched this movie all the time. I cannot count the number of times I've seen this movie, and I still love it to this day. The humor still works. It's a lot more mature humor than most of DreamWorks movies, especially now. The animation looks really great. Overall, I think this is just such a fun satire on the whole fairy tale genre, and bringing in all of these characters from famous fairy tales and poking fun at them. I think it all is just super, super well done, and I absolutely love it. And of course, I can't forget to mention the absolutely iconic opening with All-Star by Smash Mouth playing. It's my favorite opening scene in any DreamWorks movie, and what I believe to be easily one of the most iconic movie intros ever. Number 3, Kung Fu Panda, another one that I have watched countless times ever since I was a kid. And this movie, I remember, well, I don't remember it, but I've seen pictures and videos and stuff when I was very, very young. I was so into this movie that my parents got me karate gi pajamas that I wore constantly. The animation is fantastic in this movie. The score is awesome. Poe as a character, Jack Black, does such a fantastic job in this movie. All of the fight sequences are absolutely incredible. I love all of those. Tai Lung is one of my favorite DreamWorks villains, and I think this is just absolutely amazing. And right above that, my runner-up, I have the sequel, Kung Fu Panda 2. This to me is one of the most mature movies in DreamWorks, dealing with some fairly deep themes. Po learning about his past, having to come to terms with it, accept who he is. Shen, played by Gary Oldman, is one of my favorite DreamWorks villains. I think he's just really great, and having that personal, the personal history with Po as a character really works in this movie, and I think it adds so much to it. The action and fight scenes are arguably even better in this movie than the first one. But coming in number one for me, my favorite DreamWorks movie is How to Train Your Dragon. Everything about this movie is perfect. The score by John Powell is my favorite score in all of DreamWorks. That test flight sequence when Hiccup and Toothless fly for the very first time is easily one of, if not my favorite scene in all of DreamWorks filmography. The animation looks fantastic. The dynamic between Hiccup and Toothless and how the relationship grows throughout the movie is great. All the supporting characters are fantastic, and it's just really, there's nothing that I dislike about this movie. I think it all works absolutely perfectly. So there you have it. That is my ranking of all 51 DreamWorks animated movies. What do you think of my ranking? Let me know down in the comments below. What is your ranking of these films? If 51 is too many for you, give me your top 5, top 10, whatever you want. But I would love to continue this conversation down in the comments. I have a bunch of other videos coming very soon, so stay tuned for those. And until then, subscribe to my channel, help me reach my goal of 400 subscribers, and keep watching movies.